Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this individual executive member decision. My name's Callum Wernham. I'm a Democratic and Electoral Services Specialist. With me today, we have Wayne Smith, who is the Executive Member for Planning and Enforcement. We also have Justin Turvey, who's the Operational Manager for Development Management, and in attendance as well as Councillor Rochelle Shepherd-Debay. And with that, I will hand straight over to Justin just to give a quick overview of the report.
Thank you, Callum. This report is a proposed response to a current government consultation launched last month, which is called Supporting Housing Delivery and Public Service Infrastructure. In particular, part one of the consultation relates to what's called supporting housing delivery through a new permitted development right for change of use from what's called now Class E, which is commercial, business and service use, to residential. The recommendation is that we set out the response in terms that are in Appendix 1, but in summary, the new Class E permitted development right would allow any Class E commercial and retail use to change to residential without requiring full planning permission. Previously, office uses could convert using what's called a prior approval process, but the concern that we've put in this document is that by allowing any now Class E, so including retail use, to convert to residential, could potentially result in fragmentation of the high street. By that, I mean that you get pockets of what was a prime retail frontage converting to residential, and that makes high streets less attractive in the future. It also potentially means that more marginal retail uses on the high street or other centres are pushed out because residential is in the landlord terms, is a more profitable use. So more marginal retail uses get pushed out, again losing retail, and also smaller centres can suffer from conversions. In addition, a lot of centres are in conservation areas, and the change to residential ultimately leads to pressure for changes to the fabric and character of the conservation areas. So our concern is that actually these measures that are fated as helping protect the high street actually will result in harm to the high street. So we recommend that we object to this.
Thank you, Justin. That's over to you, Wayne, for any comments or any clarifications.
No, I fully support it. I mean, prior to this meeting, we had a brief conversation about, as you put it, fragmentation. We've got some very unique centres, Twyford, Wokingham, and you could throw Woodley into that mix, and I think this would be detrimental to our shopping and retail offering, especially, as you know, if a landlord suddenly gets a slight downturn, he swaps it into residential, and that will cause a massive effect on the other shops, retail outlets in the area. So no, I absolutely fully support this. Rochelle, do you have any? Sorry.
Yes. No, I completely support the idea of completely support your suggestions. But my questions are: what will happen if any of this goes into effect before the April changes to permitted development for housing and things like this? Put in housing room sizes, fenestration, I guess, windows, things like this. They could easily do things like they did down on the South Coast, where they changed one thing into little rabbit hutches of things with windows that were best to be described as something you put in a jail rather than a flat, or in some cases, absolutely no windows whatsoever.
Yeah, there's currently a transitional arrangement. So since the new use class was brought in, the permitted development order is out of step with it effectively. So that it needs to be updated, and it's got till July / August to be corrected to update. So I think they would, were it introduced, it would come into effect end of July, beginning of August, to tie into that end of that transitional period. Alongside that, it's proposed that these changes of use would have the requirement to have windows, which hasn't been a requirement up till recently, and from April it will be a requirement that they meet to the nationally described minimum space standard. So were it to come into effect, in July, they would have to meet that minimum standard.
Also, some of the struggling retail right now in the pandemic who are not able to be open, this would be a very great time to change all of them into housing for landlords, because from the standpoint of, I can tell you that at least one retail that I know of has asked for a 6-month rent holiday. And if it wasn't that the area was owned by a local government, it could be changed into housing very easily if that was in effect, because from a capitalism standpoint, they're trying to maximize their income on property. I mean, I'm not trying to say I'm an anti-capitalist or another, but I think it's also going to could completely destroy some town centers.
Well, I think we would agree with that. Well, I would agree with that. I mean, you know, most of these, I understand if it's owned by the local authority, but most of these outlets will be owned by big pension funds, so they have no interest in preserving the high street of our towns and villages. Okay, all right. Well,
are you any more queries or questions, Rochelle or Wayne?
No, not from me.
In which case, I will go straight to the recommendation for anyone watching online now or after the event. This is on agenda page 5. So I'm just going to read the recommendation out for you, Wayne, and then if you can just tell me if you support it. So the recommendation is that the Executive Member for Planning Enforcement agrees that Wokingham Borough Council submit the comments contained in Appendix 1 as this Council's formal response to the government consultation supporting housing delivery and public service infrastructure, MHCLG, December 2020. Are you happy with that, Wayne?
Yes, happy. Yep.
Brilliant. In which case, subject.
This one. I'm on this one here, and I'm on that one there. Okay.
It's subject to the 5-day standard call-in period. This decision will go live and be made, and the response will be able to be submitted. So at which point I will conclude the meeting. So thank you, Wayne, Rochelle, and Justin for attending, and that is the end of the meeting.
Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you very much
for joining us, Rochelle.